New violence has hit the West Bank. Medics say Israeli troops killed a 19-year-old Palestinian man during a raid last night.
It is just the latest incident in a surge of violence ahead of today's meeting between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Biden. Witnesses say the man was killed as troops faced off with people hurling stones. But Israeli troops claim they were throwing bombs. This is the sixth Palestinian killed in confrontations with Israel since Tuesday.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now. She is actually here with us in Studio 57. What a treat for us. So, Nancy, the White House really gave very few details heading into this bilateral meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What have you learned about what took place?
Well, everything we needed to know about what the atmospherics were going to be like in this meeting, we learned from President Biden himself at the top of the meeting. You know, normally when these meetings take place, the media is allowed in for the first couple minutes for what's known as a spray. You know, when they get to come in, both of the leaders speak for a couple minutes, and then we all get ushered out. And normally you hear the two leaders expressing some niceties. Yeah, so great to see you. Right. Welcome to America. Not this time. President Biden had a smile on his face, but he was very pointed when asked what he was going to talk about. He said, today we're going to discuss some of the hard issues, upholding democratic values, including checks and balances in our systems. And that is a clear reference to what he has described as extreme moves by the Netanyahu government to roll back, for example, the judiciary branch and its powers. There have been, as you've seen, massive protests in Israel over this. A lot of citizens fearing that the Netanyahu administration wants to concentrate power in the executive branch. And so President Biden making his thoughts on that pretty clear. He also said that we're going to talk about preserving the path to a negotiated two-state solution, which is something that he knows Netanyahu does not support. And all of this gives you a sense for why, when typically an Israeli prime minister would be invited to the White House weeks after he is reelected in Netanyahu's case. In this case, it's been months. He has gotten no such invitation. Instead, they're meeting on the sidelines of a much bigger UN General Assembly summit that happens every year.
A lot of very direct messaging there. Nancy, I want to take you back to Netanyahu's overhaul of the courts, of the judicial system, and the concern that that is helping him move closer to an authoritarian rule. Yesterday, we spoke with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who was very outspoken about this issue. Let's listen, and we'll come back to you.
This is an attempt to crush the independence of Supreme Court and push Israel out of the family of democracy. That's exactly what happens, and we are not going to let it happen.
The Biden administration has also raised concerns about, well, judicial overhaul, as you just mentioned, as you just described, all of this very direct messaging. How was that all addressed directly today?
Well, we don't know what was said in the part of the meeting where we were not privy to the conversation. The reporters were ushered out. That meeting got started around 11 a.m. Eastern and may be continuing as far as I know. I'm certain that it came up, but the Biden administration has not been shy about making its position known both publicly and in back-channel conversations with the Israelis. Now, what they were really hoping was that would put pressure on Netanyahu, kind of embarrass him on the world stage and prompt him to change course. But instead, his government actually passed the first phase of their judicial reforms this summer, and they want to do more. So it's not clear that the pressure from the Biden administration is having the desired effect just yet.
Nancy, you mentioned how strained the relationship has been between Netanyahu and Biden, that Biden has been pushing for a two-state solution, that he's been pushing for normalizing relations between Israel and other Arab states. This has been something that most presidents, modern presidents, have been pushing for. Is there any indication that Biden, especially over Netanyahu's objections, might be able to accomplish any of that?
I think what's very challenging for him is that the political atmosphere within Israel is very complicated, and there's not much that Biden can do to change that. He's aware that there are very conservative forces within Israel that are pulling Netanyahu to the right, that Netanyahu has his own legal problems that might also be pushing him to the right if he thinks that that's going to keep him in power and keep him insulated in some ways from these legal issues that he's facing, from charges. And so all that the White House can do is to make it known that, hey, if you want to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia, for example, which is something that the Israelis really want, you're going to have to be open to a Palestinian state. That is a red line that the Saudis have drawn. And Netanyahu reiterated today that that's something he wants. He wants a better relationship with the Saudis. And what Biden is there saying is, well, then you're going to have to move yourself if you want that to happen.
Nancy Cordes, so good to have you here in studio.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Good to be with you.